is displaying increasingly high rates of indebtedness, which are becoming increasingly unsustainable. To tackle these global and regional trends, which affect potential for growth, in Peru, we have adopted the plan Driving Economic Growth, Driving Peru. Our goal with this plan is to grow to the tune of 3.3%. Whatever the percentage achieved, we wish to grow beyond the Latin American average. We are convinced that our central goal is to create more employment and more quality employment, and as a consequence, we are fostering and improving conditions for national and foreign investment. We are giving pride of place in this plan to micro, small and medium-sized businesses. Peru is a country with stable and positive macroeconomic variables. We have a functioning economy and one which welcomes private and public investment for the benefit of those most in need. The Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, proposed a new social contract at a global level. This new commitment must absolutely and inevitably be linked to the development of and achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are being heavily jeopardized. We need to reaffirm our political will to ensure that the United Nations development system give priority across all its agencies to fulfilling the targets of the Agenda 2030 in the most critical areas. Priorities must be as follows. 1. Halving the number of poor people. 2. Eradicating extreme poverty. 3. Making zero hunger a reality so that all families enjoy food security. 4. Achieving efficient and universal health coverage for all. 5. Ensuring that all girls and boys finish primary and secondary education. This secondary education must be free, equitable and of quality. 6. Put an end to all forms of discrimination against women and girls throughout the world. 7. Achieving universal and equitable access to drinking water at an affordable price for all. And lastly, gradually achieving a situation whereby the income of the poorest 40% of the population is higher than the national average and ensuring it remains such. The new Global Compact must draw its strength and momentum from a renewed commitment, one which gives focus to our political will and ensures that we channel financial resources towards achieving the goals of Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 is not only a program for peace, justice and equality at a global level, rather it is an integral part of our national agendas. This year, climate change has meant that extreme heat and floods have reached their worst levels in history. Greenhouse gas levels continue to rise. These are the cries of Mother Earth. She is asking us not to continue assaulting nature. I issue an appeal, particularly to the industrialized nations, to find new momentum to halt global warming. As heads of state, we must be cognizant of the fact that our targets to ensure we meet targets of reducing new emissions already need to be 7 times higher than they are if we are to achieve the ultimate goal of making sure that global warming is no greater than 1.5 degrees. The United Nations has once again expressed its support for environmental rights defenders and for the protection of their rights, their lives and their access, and indeed supported access to environmental information on the part of citizens and indigenous peoples. The Escazú Agreement, which Peru signed, reflects the awareness of the peoples of Latin America of the need to implement the historic decision of the General Assembly, a decision which recognized environmental rights as human rights. Escazú is an instrument to affirm our sovereignty over natural resources in the Amazon region. The oceans, too, require urgent agreements to preserve marine life and marine ecosystems, as well as their biodiversity. Peru supports negotiations for a treaty which will regulate fishing activity and eliminate the pollution of seas beyond 200 nautical miles. We reiterate in unequivocal terms our sovereign control of our seas until 200 nautical miles, as established in our Constitution. Mr. President, Latin America has a tradition of democracy. At the same time, it has the highest levels of social inequality in the world, but the Latin American people continue to demonstrate historic strength as they seek fairer and more egalitarian societies with greater social cohesion, where everyone has a right to a common home without exclusions. They are convinced of the righteousness of their cause. In Peru, we are moving along this path. Democracy involves the existence of opposed political positions. Therein lies freedom. However, democratic governance calls for the respect of institutions, and it calls for the respect of the people's will. Coups, however they are conducted, or whoever the authority that drives them forward, are illegitimate. They undermine the sovereign expression of popular will. As is the case with external crises, all governance crises, or crises which see clashes between branches of power, must be resolved through dialogue, cooperation, and the full respect of electoral outcomes. The Inter-American Democratic Charter, which is one of Peru's contributions to democracy in the Americas, establishes the aforementioned in unequivocal terms. In this world, in which we are increasingly moving towards conflict, and in a world where we're seeing internal political crises, we need to remain cognizant of 4 pillars to defend democratic governance, and that is so important. We need to bear in mind the respect for peoples, the desire to solve conflicts via negotiation, the respect for human rights, and the institutional framework of the rule of law. I am the head of state of a multi-ethnic and multicultural country with more than 3,000 years of growth from the cradle of civilizations that have encountered difficulties to eliminate racism and social inequality. My government symbolizes the demands, aspirations, and dreams of those that have had nothing or very little indeed, their aspirations to join national life as authors of their own destiny. Peru's agenda for social inclusion is that of the new social contract which the United Nations wishes to see for all peoples of the world. It is an agenda which prioritizes the principle of leaving no one behind. And we are prioritizing an inclusion which will achieve tangible form for the benefit of all, particularly for the poorest and most vulnerable among us. We wish to see a world for all. Many thanks indeed.
on behalf of the...
We were watching live the statements of Peruvian President Pedro Castillo. The head of state condemned the Israeli occupation of Palestine. President Castillo described as illegitimate all unilateral sanctions, and Peru reiterated the need to find a peaceful solution to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The Peruvian president also announced that very soon the nation will establish relations with Palestine. Castillo expressed the need to build alliances of peace to root out hatred, adding that peace demands an awareness of the common future of humanity. Minutes earlier, Bolivia's President Luis Arce affirmed that the system of capitalism is in crisis and the unipolar model of the world is coming to an end. Arce said multilateralism is the only mechanism that guarantees a relationship of respect among the states. Stay tuned with teleSUR. We will provide more updates in upcoming news briefs.